And I promised Lee, our IT guy, the guy in charge, that I would shut this off at the right time instead of not shutting it off and closing the computer and locking up his system like I've done the last 2 weeks. So remind me to shut this thing down when we're done, please, because I'm going to forget. Ruth chapter 2. This story is so much fun. And God's hand, his signature's all over this. All over this. Now there was a wealthy and influential man in Bethlehem named Boaz, who was a relative of Naomi's husband, Elimelech. One day, Ruth the Moabite Thank you for powering your device down. One day, Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "Let me go out into the harvest." We need another power down. "Let me go out into the harvest fields to pick up the stalks of grain left behind by anyone who is kind enough to let me do it." Naomi replied, "All right, my daughter, go ahead." So Ruth went out to gather grain behind the harvesters. And as it happened, she found herself working in a field that belonged to Boaz, the relative of her father-in-law, Elimelech. So it was customary in Israel that they didn't pick up all the wheat in the field from the corners or maybe the edges, but the corners, so that the poor and destitute had something to eat. How does that differ from our system today? No, yes. But what about our system for people who don't have, or not fortunate, and how do we help them eat? We give them cheese, yes. Do they have to go gather the cheese? Oh. Not everyone. I'm not being insensitive to poor people or people who don't have means or physical disabilities and stuff, but I think it's interesting that they had to work. And Ruth worked from early morning until evening picking up food. So it wasn't like it was easy. She worked a full day for what she picked up. So.
She was gathering grain, she gathered over a bushel, that takes a long time.
It's a long time, yeah. Especially picking up the leftovers, Yeah, I mean, I can imagine with a sickle and it goes pretty quick when you're thick with the grain, but if you're picking up what they're leaving, that would take some time. Carl, you're right. I'm going to look up a passage in Leviticus and read it to you. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus 19, 9 and 10. The title of this section is Love Your Neighbor as Yourself. Carmela, silencio, por favor. I'm just teasing you. You get yourself settled. Take your time. When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap your field right up to its edge. Neither shall you gather the gleanings after your harvest. And you shall not strip your vineyard bare. Neither shall you gather the fallen grapes of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and for the sojourner. I am the Lord your God. Leviticus 19, 9 and 10.
Leviticus what?
19?
9 and 10.
9 and 10. So that was a nice way God set up for people to eat that didn't have means, Verse 4, while she was there, Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the harvesters. "The Lord be with you," he said. "The Lord bless you," the harvesters replied. Then Boaz asked his foreman, "Who is that young woman over there? Who does she belong to?" And the foreman replied, "She is the young woman from Moab who came back with Naomi. She asked me this morning if she could gather grain behind the harvesters. She has been hard at work ever since, except for a few minutes rest in the shelter." So, good report about her work ethic. She was committed to Naomi. She risked everything to stay with her. And now here we see that she's eager to go work. She's ready to go get after it. You know, this lady's something else.
And the line of, she just so happened to go to the field of books.
Yes, that is going to be the topic of probably the next 15 or 20 minutes. So you great lead in, Marge. Yeah, she just so happened. Just so happened. You know, Naomi told Ruth about Leviticus 19. I'm sure that's how she knew, because she wouldn't have any history in Israel. None. She was a Moabite woman. So she didn't understand the laws. So when she told her, she's like, "Can I go work in the fields?" "Yes, go ahead," you know. Another thing that is incredibly different than our culture today is the focus on the relationship between those two. That was the priority. And in America, we're rugged individuals. We gotta make our heads stick up, you know. In Asian countries, if your head sticks up, it gets lopped off. Not seriously, but everybody wants to be the same. Everybody needs to be the same level. No one needs to stick out. They want to just, it's about community, and it's such a different philosophy on life than the one we have here in the West. Incredibly different. We're ruggedly individual from the rest of the world in that way. Israel was no different. They were focused on the relationship, sort of an opposite culture and dynamic from ours. I'm getting a little ahead of verse 3, but it was customary for women, or we would say girls, to marry at about 12 or 13 years old. So she had been married 10 years and her husband about 10 years. So she was probably 22 to 25, young woman in the field. Yeah. And by Boaz, who's that? And he's looking. I bet she was a little bit of a looker if I'm just reading into the text. That's part of Park's paraphrase. But, you know, Boaz, he right away, "Hey, God bless you, God bless you." Who she belong to? There was no break in there, you know. He's like, "Woo-hoo." All right, so verse 3. My NLT says, "As it happened, she found herself working in a field that belonged to Boaz." Who has a different version? Tell me what it is. King James. "And her hap was to light on a part of the field that belonged to Boaz." Her hap. NIV. "As it turned out." ESV. "She happened to come to." What is the author trying to say here?
Man makes his plans, but God directs his steps.
Man makes his plans, God directs his steps. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think it's an actual reference to happenstance at all. Because when you see God's signature, fingerprints all over the story, he led her there. It wasn't by accident. And I question, because Naomi knew the people in Bethlehem. She knew who they were. She knew Boaz was a relative of Elimelech and her husband that died. So, I don't know. Did she get a heads up? Hey, go to this field. Go to this guy's field. I don't know. It doesn't say that. It basically said God sort of providentially led her there. That's the way I'm reading it. But I think it's funny because every single different version says, as it happened, as it turned out, she happened to, as her hap was to lie on a part of the field that belonged to Boaz, which is my favorite.
I think there might have been a little bit of matchmaking going on too.
You know, I mean, God knew
Man was wealthy.
how Boaz was going to see her too. You know, he's in all of our heads. He knows how we see the world. Who does she belong to? Yeah. So there was information given from Naomi to Ruth about the gleaning, which she promptly did. What if she hadn't done that? What if she hadn't been willing to get off her duff and go to work and get to it and be productive and try to feed her mother, she and her mother-in-law? Because, I mean, they went there with next to nothing, is my understanding. What if she hadn't gotten off her duff and gone and worked in a field in the sun all day? So the notes in my Bible, had she considered herself too proud or embarrassed to work in the fields, accepting the charity of someone else, she would have missed the opportunity to meet Boaz. There's a lesson in there for all of us. You gotta move, you know? A business associate of mine that I learned a lot from years ago, his motto was when he was explaining to me his business, he said, you chop wood and carry water every day. You have to chop wood to keep warm, cook food, you gotta drink. Chop wood and carry water. That's not an option. It's not an option. And you turn over every rock you see. And it's sort of a blanket for, just turn over all the stones, He said if it's big business, if it's little business, it doesn't matter. Because big is good, little can turn into big, or little can turn into medium, So, move, humbly chop wood and carry water, and know you do it. That seems to be the way God enabled his providential care of Naomi and Ruth here. Just taking the first steps. He had to take the step into the river before it receded. Yep. I think it would have been fun. This is off topic. The squirrel's not in here, but we'll shoot him anyway in a minute. It walled up on both sides, right? The water. It's like, what kind of fish were in there? And could you see them right there? That would be fun. Yeah. And could you fish? Could you throw a hunk of cut bait in there and catch one of them out of the side of the wall of the thing? Funny questions for God and Moses when we get there. Yeah, that would be cool. So let's talk about sovereignty. This is laden with sovereignty. Because the foreman gave her a glowing review. She's been working all day. She's the one from Moab. Came back with Naomi. Boaz, obviously, small town. He knew exactly what was going on. He understood her character. Here, I'm going to read one more and then we'll talk about sovereignty. Boaz went over and said to Ruth, verse 8, listen, my daughter, stay right here when you gather grain. Don't go to any other fields. Stay right behind the young woman working in my field. See which part of the field they're harvesting, and then follow them. I have warned the young men not to treat you roughly. And when you are thirsty, help yourself to the water they have drawn from the well. She's so lucky. So, what is sovereignty? How far does it go? Does God control our actions? You got Calvinism that says you don't need to evangelize because God chooses and picks and draws the ones he wants, and the other ones he lets go. You don't, he's in complete control of us, basically. Calvinism.
I don't agree with that.
What?
I don't think Calvinism teaches that.
No?
Explicitly. I grew up in a Calvinistic background.
Did you? Cool.
We did
Share.
evangelism. We sent missionaries all over the
Did you really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, so Calvinism believes that God is in control, and that he chooses to use us. And he gives the great commission. All of those are true. Yes, we still need to evangelize. But our ever-loving, personal,
Yeah.
wonderful God is still in control.
Okay. That was from Got Questions. So, you know, everybody's got a different angle. And I'm sure there's, like Baptists, there's liberal and conservative. I'm sure there's hardcore Calvinists, and maybe, would you consider your all's upbringing more moderate, or I don't even know Calvinism at all, so I'm speaking out of sorts. Moderate? Okay. Yeah.
It wasn't the full blown.
You know, there were more, very, very ultra conservative congregations, but
Yeah.
How many points were you?
No 5 points.
Yeah, were you a 5-pointer, man? Yeah, it's for you. That's fine. Well, that is, whether it is representative of Calvinism or not, there are people who believe that angle, right? So, yeah, thank you for that, Tim. I appreciate anybody's insight from their history. I'm thanking you. There's no harsh. No, we're good. We're good. That's part of your background. I didn't mean to step on your toes. My apologies, you know. That's why I said it wasn't something that I dreamt up. I got it from somewhere else. No, I appreciate anybody's insight from their history, because that's what makes this class awesome. There's a view of sovereignty that God's absolutely in control of everything, right? And then you have an Arminian. God holds ultimate power, but he chooses to give humans true free will to accept or reject him. I'm okay with that, right? And then a Catholic or a Wesleyan view, God rules with complete authority, but allows people to freely cooperate with his plans. And I like that as well. So we did a study in that little C.S. Lewis book at the house on Tuesdays. It was so tough. And it was so tough when the Cliff Notes online went away. I really struggled after that. But it was fun, and C.S. Lewis's view is that God and his infinite power and wisdom, he's in control of everything, he's all powerful. He's at every moment in time right now. Beginning and the end, I'm the beginning and the end, right? And he does allow us to join with him in his work. And I use the word lightly, it's not magic, but it's a spiritual, magical type that we get to work with him in his plan. It's truly a gift, and it's amazing, and it's a part of the sovereignty that he even cares, you know? But we're definitely not puppets on a string. I don't believe that. Then free will wouldn't be a thing if we were puppets, if we were commanded to, you know?
well, we're the prophets, subject to the prophets. They have their own decisions.
Yeah.
They have their own rules.
Absolutely. I'm going to pull up some more scriptures real quick. Ephesians 1:4. Even as he chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and blameless before him in love. Before the foundation of the world, he chose us. Is it because he made us be Christians? He didn't make anybody be Christians. He may have given us circumstances in our lives that would help change our heart if we were rebellious, if we were resistant, you know. I'm going to pull up Romans 8. Romans 28 through 30. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. And here's the rub. For those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, in order that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. And those he predestined, he also called. And those whom he called, he also justified. And those whom he justified, he also glorified.
Where is that in Scripture?
Romans 8, 28, 29, 30. Predestined.
Lots of Presbyterians believe in predestination. I grew up in the Presbyterian church.
Well, the whole thing is that foreknowledge is the key there. He says in the gospel, he says, before Abraham was, I am.
Mm.
I am is always the word he uses. He used it on Moses. He dwells in eternity. We're in time. This is time right here, 6,000 years. And God's in eternity, so he's there, and he's here, and he's in the future. His foreknowledge is just he knew those that would accept him.
Mm.
That's hard. We can't understand it with finite mind.
No. We are so incredibly entrenched and just caged by time. We can't get outside of time in our heads. We just can't. It's everything we've ever known since we were born. Time. It's time to get up. It's time to eat breakfast. It's time to clean the room.
It's one of those mysteries you just can't wrap around your head, because how could you know the future if somebody has free will and you don't know which choice they're going to make? You know? The future would be different depending on the choice.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite characters, this is obscure, but it's Men in Black, the third one. And the little guy with the hat, who's like, I wonder if this is the future that this happens. And he's like, that's my favorite one. Because he sees all the different futures going forward. And he's like, oh no, this is a bad one. And that quirky little guy, he was so great. But I thought about God and Jesus, and they know. They don't have to guess. They're not guessing. They're like, oh man, he's screwing this up for him. But I know it'll lead him here and there, you know. And all things work together for good for those who are called, who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. That all things, meaning your screw ups when you run it off into the ditch, all things.
I've been thinking since last week, why Ruth, why Naomi, why, the Moabite in the line of Christ and all these things. I thought of something I brought with me today.
Cool.
Because I like to write down little quippy things. And so I read this recently. It said, here's what God can do. God has a tendency to pick a nobody, to be a somebody, in front of everybody, without consulting anybody.
That's super cute. Yeah. Picking nobody to be a somebody in front of everybody, consulting nobody. Did I miss any? Okay, good. I said it for the camera because that was cool. Yeah.
I thought it was just cute when I read it earlier to share a book, and that's why I wrote it down last week. I kept thinking about all the questions that were coming out with, why? Well, God can do what God wants to do.
Because he's God. And we're the clay feet. Yeah, that can, and we can trust him. And it's difficult because we are rugged individuals, self-centered people in the West, in the most prosperous country on the earth. And we take it for granted that we have stores with food and we have water in the back of our toilet that we could drink if we wanted to, right? So, the rest of the world, there's no water fountains in Indonesia. They don't exist. If an Indonesian comes to the United States, one of the most fascinating things to them is a water fountain. They're like, what is that? So it's a water fountain. I'm like, they're like, can you drink it? I said, yeah. They all stood in line. 15 minutes, 30 kids. They wanted to drink out of the water fountain, because they had never seen that in their life. We don't understand that. We don't conceptualize that.
way back when I was a teenager, we had this guy from India come stay at our house. We made popcorn in the microwave. His eyes were huge. His mouth was always just watching it. It's miracle popcorn.
Yeah, they did it over a fire, right? Yeah, or whatever, a stove, yeah. So yeah, God, it's a touchy one with me, because I don't think he caused my wife to have cancer, you know? But he's got a plan, you know? And evidently I'm a part of it because I'm still here, you know? Whatever that is, I trust.
That's the key.
Because he's trustworthy.
Yes.
Even though I'm not happy. But oh, stop it. Romans 11:33. Oh, the depth of the riches and wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are his judgments and how inscrutable his ways. For who has known the mind of the Lord, or who has been his counselor, or who has given a gift to him that might be repaid? For from him and through him and to him are all things. To him be the glory forever. Amen. We don't, not just time, like Carl was saying, we don't have a clue how this whole thing is held together. Not even an inkling. And so, who are we to question? And yet he allows us to join him in his work. And he blesses it, even when we're steering off in the ditch. I love Jonah so much because he kept running into the ditch. And God's like, I'm going to save the people you were with on the boat. No thanks to you, buddy. You know? And I'm going to save those people you don't want to save because you hate them. They're half-breeds. You don't like them. Their race is substandard to yours, right? So, yeah, I find it super comforting that God can use our weaknesses.
Again, that's the only way he can work through us. That's why in 1 Corinthians 1 it says, God's chosen the foolish, weak, and the base things and things which are not, that he may glory, to let him glory in the Lord. If somebody's successful in this life, they don't give God the credit, they're dependent on themselves. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. That's America.
That is America. Yeah, stereotypical. And we all struggle. We all put ourselves, you know, we care for ourselves first at times. And we can all be selfless too, and it's great, it's wonderful, but it's a constant struggle. It's God's providence is a lifelong process. His care for us and our trying to become more like him is a lifelong process. Which one that Naomi and Ruth, they did pretty well. All right, we'll get back to it. This is a quote, I think it was out of Got Questions or my commentary, one of the others. It says, God does not violate our wills by choosing and redeeming us. He changes our hearts so our wills will choose him. I like that. Oh yeah, there's two more that I wanted to read too that I'm going to just back up a hair because they're important. 1 John 4:19. We love because he first loved us. That's part of that statement before, right? And then John 15:16. and this is red. So this is Jesus talking. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask in my Father's name, he may give it to you. And it follows up with you need to love each other, which, well, that's an ongoing theme in the Bible. So Boaz told her to stay with the ladies. In verse 10, Ruth fell at his feet and thanked him warmly. Never done that. Fallen at somebody's feet and thank them. I'm sure it's customary, but it's just interesting to think about. What have I done to deserve such kindness? She asked. I am only a foreigner. Yes, I know, Boaz replied. But I also know about everything you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband. I have heard how you left your father and mother and your own land to live here among complete strangers. May the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge, reward you fully for what you have done. I wonder what was going through his head, because he had just met her. She's probably pretty. She's 25. He's probably a good bit older than that. He knows he's her kin, and he understands the concept of kinsman redeemer, as does Naomi, which is interesting to think about all this and how it plays out in these people's lives. 13, Ruth says, I hope to continue to please you, sir. She replied, you have comforted me by speaking so kindly to me, even though I am not one of your workers. So she's super grateful, super appropriate, super humble, more great attributes of Ruth. 14. At mealtime, Boaz called to her, come over here and help yourself to some food. You can dip your bread in the sour wine. So she sat with his harvesters, and Boaz gave her some roasted grain to eat. She ate all she wanted and still had some left over. Boy, she hit the right spot, didn't she? Man. 15. When Ruth went back to work again, Boaz ordered his young men, let her gather grain right among the sheaves without stopping her, and pull out some heads of barley from the bundles and drop them on purpose for her. Let her pick them up and don't give her a hard time. Nice guy. And he knows he's indirectly taking care of Naomi by taking care of Ruth. What's that?
He's baiting the field.
Yeah, he's baiting the field, yeah. He's like, I don't know if she sees me, but man, I see her. I got to give her some extra food. I got to get on her good side, I don't know. Yeah, he had done his homework, and he knew. He said, I know exactly who you are and what you did for your mother-in-law.
When we moved out west, I got to know my cousin out there, and they lived in a Selma King Valley, I think it's called, and she talked about gleaning and how people would go on the edge of the field and pick up what they could, to survive. I never thought of that before.
Mm-hmm. In Mexico, in the pecan groves, they have to post security in tents during harvest to keep people from stealing, because they'll walk through the grove and pick up with a 5-gallon bucket. And you got 50 or 60 people doing that, they're stealing your whole crop, So, yeah, they sit there, and because it's a farm, you can't have guns in Mexico. Because it's a farm, you can have shotgun. And so, for farms. But it's interesting.
Especially two-legged kind.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but, in-shell pecans, when you shell it out without the shell, wholesale cost is somewhere $4 to $6 a pound. So you pick up a bucket of pecans in Mexico, that'll feed you a couple days, you know? So, interesting. They don't leave any in the corners in Mexico. They pick them all up. 17. So Ruth gathered barley there all day, and when she beat out the grain that evening, it filled an entire basket, which says 20 quarts. She carried it back into town and showed it to her mother-in-law, Ruth. Ruth also gave her the roasted grain that was left over from her meal. And she's like, "Where did you get all this today? Where did you gather all this grain today?" Naomi asked. "Where did you work? May the Lord bless the one who helped you," meaning you did not do this on your own. That is not what gleaning really looks like. Yeah, somebody hooked you up. So Ruth told her mother-in-law about the man in whose field she had worked. She said, "The man I worked with today is named Boaz." "May the Lord bless him," Naomi told her daughter-in-law. "He is showing his kindness to us as well as to your dead husband. That man is one of our closest relatives, one of our family redeemers." What's more, Ruth said, "What's more, Boaz even told me to come back and stay with his harvesters until the entire harvest is completed." So I find that interesting. He wasn't quick to move. How long is a harvest? I mean, I'm sure the annual crop of wheat is much shorter. It happens faster, I would imagine, than the tree nut thing that I'm familiar with, because tree nut harvest for almonds started this month, and it'll run through December. Pecans are about the same. They usually start November, December, and run through March or whatever, or February. So it takes a while. They come off in stages, you know. You go in with a sickle, I guess you're cutting the weed, you got it, right? It's done. So, depending on the size of the field. But it wasn't, I mean, he didn't move on the kinsman redeemer thing right away. "Good," Naomi exclaimed. "Do as he says, my daughter. Stay with his young women right through the whole harvest. You may be harassed in other fields, but you'll be safe with him." So Ruth worked alongside the women in Boaz's fields and gathered grain with them until the end of the barley harvest. Then she continued working with them through the wheat harvest in early summer. And all the while she lived with her mother-in-law. So, yeah, Jerry.
What is another term for family redeemer?
Kinsman redeemer. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. But I find it interesting. So Israel, Bethlehem had a mild climate, and they had 2 harvests per year. And so these were opposite harvests that we're talking about here. So she worked not only through the barley harvest, she continued working with them through the wheat harvest in early summer. So another season. So he let her just work. He didn't just scoop her up. He wanted to make sure that I guess that she was the real deal, or I don't know, maybe it didn't come to him. Maybe that was just God's hand working here. But this was not something immediate. She went and worked in the field a bunch. And a kinsman redeemer in Israel was God's law. If your husband or your son or both died, the nearest relative would marry you and care for you, because women had no rights. They typically didn't have money if they weren't tied to a man. And that's why Boaz is like, who does she belong to? It's not a question I would ask him, who do you belong to? But they would marry to preserve the name of the family and also care for the woman. Any additional thoughts or info on that from anybody?
I heard a pastor preaching one time on this, and he used the analogy that when Boaz saw her, it was just like when he saw his wife Emily for the first time. And so he wanted to keep her around, and that's why they continue on, you know. And then you know, what happened. So, from the moment he saw her, he wanted to have her.
This is Tim Harvey, by the way, one of my oldest friends. Heck of a mentor when I was a wee lad.
I'm a little one.
Yeah. "19. Where did you gather all this grain today?" Naomi asked. "Where did you work? May the Lord bless the one who helps you." In chapter 1, Naomi was, she wasn't bitter, but she was really frank about the difficulty she was facing and the punishment that happened for her husband's sin by leaving the country, right? And here she's like, "Bless the Lord. Bless the, faithful. I'm thinking about God. Bless the Lord for this. This is from Him, So she's flipped, or she's, I don't know. I don't see it as her being grumbly, a little bit, but she's also being real in that last chapter, to me. But she's being positive, faithful. She's keeping a good attitude, praising God. Because last chapter she was sort of sad and frustrated with the situation she was in.
I wonder if she's trying to see God's forgiveness in the sense of you don't really read that she was criticized, she was welcomed back. She could have been, what are you doing there?
Yeah, what are you doing here? You ran off. You're a traitor.
Yeah.
You left when it got hard.
And you brought a foreigner. And now a foreigner.
We don't like Moabites.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't let us walk through their country.
And she's seeing God's forgiveness through the Israelites.
That's cool.
And she knows that she came home with the good stuff, not the stuff that just gets.
Naomi saw it and was like, where'd you get that? What? Yeah. You're not supposed to have those heads of grain. Yeah.
And so she is seeing what the world would say light at the end of the tunnel, but we know it's God's grace and God's forgiveness.
Yeah. No, that's cool. May the Lord bless him, Naomi said. Naomi told her daughter-in-law, "He is showing his kindness to us as well as your dead husband. That man is one of our closest relatives, one of our family redeemers." God's hand sort of all through this story. You can see it. They don't see the end of the story yet. They're taking part in it like all of us. We don't know the end of our story. We're taking part. Pause and ask yourself, where is God working in my life today that I don't see, that I could be more aware of, right? Because these ladies, Naomi's praising God through the thing. She is. She understands, but they don't see the end of the story yet. There may be the possibility of that in Naomi's mind. She may or may not have talked to Ruth about the kinsman redeemer concept, which would be completely foreign to Ruth. We don't know. It doesn't say. But God's always working something. All things for good. If you're called according to His purpose, which means being a Christian.
Yeah, that working all things for good is sometimes a hard thing to receive when you're walking through things. It's very difficult. I mean, it's super duper difficult. And that's what's important to me, a community like this. You know, when we face adversity and hard stuff comes upon us, we need people. We need people to help us, to encourage us, to sometimes give us money, sometimes give us food. Like Ruth was mad, she was ticked when was shaken out, right? So she leaves and comes, and then she realizes and sees God's provision in her life coming through somebody else. And if we personalize that, I can testify to that for people in my life. When I was down and out, you know, I had troubles, and broke, basically destitute community, God's people that I was involved with came in, right, and helped and blessed me. And that's what this is all about. This is not all about coming to church, listen to a lesson, listen to some preaching, and then go our merry way. It's about engaging and being a part, right? And we're blessed to be a blessing, right? And we're here to help up, you know. Sometimes we need help. I look at like a reciprocating thing, you know. Sometimes they have a lot of love, right? And other times I need to be doing a whole lot of loving somebody else, you know. And that's very important to me in my life.
Yeah, for sure. Chop wood and carry water. You gotta move. In order for God's providence to enact in your life, I mean, He's gonna enact it one way or the other, so I'm assuming, but we certainly can take the first steps and enable Him to work within what we're doing. Because free will is a free will. We have free will. We can do what we want. Yeah, Mom.
I have never had anything bad happen to me that didn't turn out to be the precursor of something good. Everything bad has always done that. It may be quite a bit later, but always.
Like I have a mentor like you do, and she'll say to me, well, if it's not good, it's not over yet. You know, promise is,
Yeah.
it works out for good. It's not good, it's not over.
What the saying is, you're on the cusp of a breakthrough. Let it come quick, Lord.
Jesus Christ is our kinsman redeemer.
Yes.
He's our brother, and we need His forgiveness and His grace, and we need the love that He offers us, just like the people in our lives need our grace and our love and our forgiveness for whatever it is. Without Him, we wouldn't have the hope that we have. I can't imagine going through life without it. I can't. It doesn't seem possible. So, Tim, will you close us in prayer, please? Thank you.
God, thank you. We are working our lives. Thank you for who you are. Oh God, help us keep our focus there. Lord, and realize, Lord, that you do have a plan for each of us. Forgive us, God, for our sin. Watch over us